Evening. This is Heretics Anonymous. I hope people are joining us out there on the internets. This is sort of a new venture between Aeon Byte and Megas Aeon from Alex. I guess we could have called it something else, like Aeon something, but see, Heretics Anonymous seemed like a good thing, and we can rebrand, do a really bad rebranding later, like George Bush, and be a complete failure at the rebranding. But Heretics Anonymous seems like a good thing. And hi, my name is Miguel, and I am a heretic. And with us, Alex. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you for bringing back on again for the part 2 for Heretics Anonymous. So
glad to be here. I don't think Vance will be able to join us, which is a pity, but we shall continue. And of course, it's truly an honor to have Tracy Twyman. She's one of my favorite peeps out there when it comes to cutting edge insights and just deep thinking and all that. Unfortunately, Tracy's having little archons in her video, but she is with us in audio. How are you doing tonight, Tracy?
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much for having me on. I didn't know you guys had this deal going, but it sounds like a good idea. I think that would work great. You know, I guess it already has been. So congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yes, and of course, it's sort of a live video, more informal, friendly, riffing, talking about stuff that's going on today. But of course, it'll be out on all the Aeon Byte channels, iTunes, and so forth, and of course, wherever Alex wants to put this heresy himself. So it's a good deal, and we have people there in the chat. So maybe there'll be some questions for us. I've got to sort of pull this out because the chat always changes on YouTube. Never know what's going to be this week. So, so Tracy, tell us how you've been. One of the emails I get often, very often, is what has happened to Tracy Twyman? And sometimes I think, well, maybe she had the same fate as Paul, and the real and this is not the real Tracy, but you are the real Tracy. What have you been up to?
By Paul, you mean McCartney?
Yes. I still love that one. Paul is dead conspiracy. I can't let it go.
Well, so far, only one person has accused me of being a clone or a replacement. So as far as I'm aware, I'm still me, and I've still been here. There was just a couple months where I had taken my website down and the YouTube channel I used to have because of, as I've explained, you know, on other shows, so I won't get into too much of it, but I got hacked, I got death threatened, and I thought my website might be compromised, so I had to take it down and start a new one. And I'm still in the process of trying to get all my old material back up on the new website, because I'm actually really shocked to realize just how many reams of stuff I've written and videos I've produced. And it's like, I can't believe when I got rid of, you know, about 20 years worth of stuff all at once, and now I'm going back to try to find the best stuff to put it back. There's tons of stuff. It's so much, and it's a lot of work. So I don't know. I hope I can get it all up there, but I know there's some things that are kind of lost forever. Anyway, I'm doing all right. I'm doing some new stuff too. And I thank all those people for being concerned about me. You can usually always find what I'm doing now just by Googling my name. So I'm usually, if I really did disappear, you ought to wait like more than a couple months before you really worry about me being dead, you know, because sometimes I do just take some time to do some research. I'm not always tweeting and stuff like that. So
yes, you have a life to do to bring that good content out. Well, that's awesome. So again, we want to try to keep with today's standards and what's going on. So Tracy, just from what you've seen lately, it seems, what do you think about this whole Saudi Arabia pivot? I mean, this seems to be very strange in so many ways, how Saudi Arabia suddenly turned into sort of a boogeyman, even though they are been sort of the shadow government of this country. But what's your hot take on this?
I wish I had a lot to add here. I actually, I've been not paying too much attention to the news lately, so I don't really know what you guys are talking about there. What's the Saudi Arabia pivot?
Well, like the journalist was killed, and it seems suddenly this country who's basically gotten away with literally murder this country that's deeply embedded with the United States. I mean, from 9/11 to before. And it suddenly seems the PR has gone bad. And usually that tells us, as some have said, it usually means a war in heaven with different factions. So I'm trying to just untangle this. What about you, Alex? What do you think of this?
Yeah, that Saudi stuff. It's I know Tracy mentioned something about it a while back. I think it was like a Ouija board session. I think you were talking to Prince, right, Tracy? For, I think about the Saudis and how they like infested the entertainment system.
That's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What are you gonna say about? You have more to say about that.
Summarize what you're talking about quickly. Prince, supposedly, the spirit identifying himself as that, did speak to me and a friend on the Ouija board and said that Saudi gangsters, basically a Saudi cartel, was running the American entertainment industry and was responsible for the deaths of Prince and several other people. But so fill me in, guys. Like, is the president saying a lot of things about Saudi Arabia right now, or is it the news media, or both?
Oh, it's kind of like both. The media wants Trump to denounce Saudi Arabia, and Trump is doing his usual, I guess, the trickster archetype. He keeps talking about, well, it's going to cost us a lot of money, and we do business with them and all that. And it sounds horrible, but in a way, he's doing what he does best. So he's exposing what every other president has done, was go to bat for Saudi Arabia, cover for Saudi Arabia, and just tell the truth that we have been, we've been selling them arms. We've both Saudi Arabia, United States, and Israel have been this like triangle of exporting terror and war across the Middle East and beyond. So that's kind of what's going on. And of course, different factions from both the right and left are sort of like clutching their pearls, because this is offensive, whatever side you want to take. But it's an interesting thing, because like it keeps exposing how corrupt and evil we've been for so long.
So the president had previously tried to indicate that he knew who the good guys and the bad guys were over there, and he's friends with the current administration, and he was supporting the house cleaning that he supposedly was doing, where he had the people imprisoned in the hotel. And I think some of those people are still there. Mm-hmm. That's what I've heard, but I don't know much more about the story beyond that. So
yeah, I think it's the CIA has said that the prince himself was involved in the killing of the journalists. So of course, everybody's up in arms, but how do you trust the CIA? So it's a big shit show, and it's just the way I see it exposes more of the whole corrupt underbelly, how deep Saudi Arabia is embedded with deep state here in the United States. So you're probably not missing much.
I certainly don't see us invading anytime. I mean, it's kind of a proxy. It's, I consider it kind of an extension of the United States government in a way, or at least parts of it, So I really don't see them being a military a conflict between us and them anytime soon. Wouldn't you agree?
No. I don't even know where this could even go. It's just, again, it's a very strange one. And another thing I've wanted to ask you too, before we get into some of your work, is the idea of QAnon. I mean, I know my wife, who is very much enthralled by the whole QAnon thing, I tend to lean towards it being more some sort of intelligence force that's sending out misinformation and so forth. But what do you think, Tracy? I mean, I know you told me to ask you about Isaac Cappy.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been watching the QAnon stuff kind of off and on, but since the beginning. And early on, I came up with some theories about just some aspects of what he was talking about, just because it seemed like it was actually aimed at me, frankly. Like he was hinting at things that only I had written about recently at that time. I was writing about hidden hyperspace kingdoms, the idea that the elite might have some kind of some spaces where they keep properties that you can't even see, using your eyes, like they're using special technology to hide these locations. And I had a lot of reasons to think that in the things that I had written. And then there were hints about this in some of the early QAnon material. And then he's come back to it repeatedly throughout the months. So I honestly was thinking, whoever this person is, they're putting out lots of different clues, and they're trying to have it match up with other stories, other information that's out there right now, and that some of my hyperspace material was part of that. And so I'm not saying, QAnon is all about me or anything, but there was an aspect, there were a few messages he put out that frankly were meant to go along with things that I had put out, and I think were meant to get my attention. And then after saying this in public, someone pointed out to me that, for instance, the cover of the Baphomet book that Alex and I wrote, a picture of that was posted by one of the not QAnon himself, but there's several others that are like connected to him, And so they put out a picture of our book. They referred to a secret battle going on between Keck supporters and worshipers of which they identified those people as worshipers of Mithras. And then there's a battle going on between those people and worshipers of Baal. So anyway, it seemed like whoever these, I agree, they're trolls, but I actually think they're connected to the administration. So it's just it's a intelligence op coming from the president. And they were trying to inject this as part of the narrative. And I just am watching, and trying not to get sucked in or take the bait. I don't want to be used by anyone. But of course, I'm interested that they're, dropping hints that are meant for me. But so anyway, the QAnon stuff then came up with the people that were hacking me and attacking me this summer. They kept sending threatening and insulting messages indicating that I'm part of the QAnon group. I'm promoting it. And as though I care about Donald Trump and I'm part of that whole movement, and then attacking me for being that, which I'm not, But anyway, you could tell like I had been identified as a target by, I think, they seem to be like Hillary shillbots and people working for left-wing causes. So I don't know. I can't tell what the agenda was there. But then the Isaac Caspi comes up. That subject comes up because this guy came out, 2 or 3 months ago, claimed to be friends with Seth Green and had observed things that led him to indicate that, or led him to believe that Seth Green is a pedophile and guilty of Pizzagate type stuff. I'll just leave it at that. And he did an interview with Alex Jones. He's done several interviews talking about this. So this is what he's known for now, rather than the few bit parts he's done as an actor. So I contacted him. I started chit-chatting with him. I noticed right away there's something weird about him, but I'm not putting him down or saying that he's an agent necessarily. I'm not going to claim anything like that necessarily, but there's some weird things that stand out. I mean, obviously he's got this actor personality, if you've ever been friends with actors or met anyone, they just have this kind of way of, they're always on camera, they're always acting like they're in a show or something. So he's got this personality that's just very odd for a whistleblower. And then when I was exchanging information with him, because he's presenting himself as someone who's trying to start a movement, and he says, come to me with your stories of victimization, and I will help you get those stories out. And I was just telling him about the hack attacks and how I had found some what looked like child trafficking on YouTube and Instagram. That's how this whole thing started for me this summer. So I was telling him the story. I was showing him some of the messages, the threatening messages I got. Some of them had codes in them, and I was just asking him, since you're an actor, some of them had codes about Hollywood, and I was just saying, do you recognize any of these codes? Do you know what they're talking about? He seemed amazingly disinterested in anything I was saying. He didn't ask any follow-up questions. And here's the weirdest thing. Someone pointed out to me after I'd been talking to this guy for 2 or 3 days, they said, hey, have you ever noticed that Isaac Cappy, when he first came out on Twitter talking about this stuff, the email address he told people to write to was +ultra17 at, I think, Gmail or something, which is very odd because, you know, there's not a lot of people using this term. I've used it repeatedly throughout my career, and then I've used it for my website most recently. So I was already doing that when QAnon came out. And the Plus Ultra concept is about this hidden hyperspace kingdom idea. So the messages in QAnon that I felt were referencing my material mentioned Plus Ultra, said that Plus Ultra is a secret society that that Donald Trump is a member of. And then it went into stuff about him and time travel and his uncle, who was a nuclear scientist, and trying to indicate, okay, that Plus Ultra is a real thing and that it's the same secret society that was portrayed in the movie Tomorrowland that was put out by Disney recently, or in the last few years, and had George Clooney in it. And that was about a hidden hyperspace kingdom where chosen elite scientists and intellectuals and artists are invited to go so that they can escape the kind of anti-intellectual world of modern times. And it's like going into the future, literally. You go into this place where there's higher technology and you're around people that are on your same level, I guess is the idea. Anyway, so that's the way it was portrayed in this movie put out by Disney. There was also a game that was put out before the movie came out, and it was a role-playing game, and it had all this stuff about the secret society in it, and it even said that they were kidnapping kids for benign purposes, supposedly, to induct them into the society, but that they would kidnap them at Disneyland on the It's a Small World ride. That they would identify kids they were going to kidnap who were geniuses, and they wanted to have them. And so they put a special pin on these guys when they came into Disneyland. And then as they're going through It's a Small World, there's a little laser light that will scan them. And if they're wearing the pin, it will cause a trap door to open up, and they go right into the Plus Ultra world, the Tomorrowland. So anyway, that's in the game that was obviously put out to promote the movie, came out later. There's a scene of this happening in the movie too, but they don't go into an elaborate explanation of why it's happening. But it's a part of the movie too. So anyway, you've got this idea that's in the movie, and then you've got QAnon referencing it. I had already picked up on the symbolism of it, and it ties into Ayn Rand and what is it? This, not the Fountainhead, but the second one. Atlas Shrugged is all about the same concept. So anyway, to tie in Isaac Cappy, all I know is that he was using this email address for unknown reasons. I guess Plus Ultra 17. Okay, 17 is Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet, so that's why that number is in there, I suppose. And maybe he was just a big QAnon fan, and he saw QAnon talk about Plus Ultra, and maybe he just got into the whole idea. He spelled it with a V, from the Latin alphabet. So instead of the U, there was a V in both words. And so anyway, I mentioned this to Isaac Cappy in a Twitter exchange, a private message exchange. I just said, hey, some people are writing to me. They were basically accusing me of being part of a conspiracy, I guess, with Isaac Cappy. They were like, hey, how come you guys are both using this term? And he has V's instead of U's. And that's just like NXIVM, that's just like the NXIVM cult. And they're doing child trafficking. Is that what you guys are doing? And I'm like, hey, I don't know Isaac Cappy. I didn't know that was his email, So anyway, I mentioned this to him and just say, people are accusing me of this. And then I mentioned to him too, like, hey, I've been using this term forever. It's nothing new to me, and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. And I didn't ask him, why are you using it? But I certainly invited him. Like it would have been natural for him to respond by explaining why he was using it, but he never did. I didn't follow up on it because at this point I felt like, okay, there's really something weird going on. Why isn't he addressing what I said, And so I backed off, and I've left him alone. He subsequently got involved with this guy named Vegan Mikey, who's claiming that he knows about trafficking going on in my neck of the woods over here, Voodoo Donuts in Portland. He says that's one of the safe houses. That's where they're kidnapping kids, and the owners are having parties and doing things with kids. And so anyway, Isaac Cappy was integral in outing Vegan Mikey's claims, him and this other show called Lift the Veil that's on YouTube. And again, okay, I'm just telling you what I know. I don't know anything beyond that. There's another fellow on YouTube now claiming that Cappy and Mikey, and he kind of throws dirt also on Lift the Veil, but it doesn't sound like he really has a lot of proof of it. But he does claim that Cappy and Mikey are both connected to this film company called Trauma that is itself connected to the people that run Voodoo Donuts, also connected to Comet Ping Pong, and this other fellow named Lloyd Kaufman, who hangs out with Tony Podesta and makes pedo jokes on Twitter all the time. So long story short, I guess, it does seem like there's reason to wonder if Isaac Cappy and Vegan Mikey are both part of some kind of LARP that's meant to, disrupt whatever you would call, the Pizzagate truther movement on YouTube and stuff. And it's very difficult to tell with this whole thing, really. Okay, QAnon, Pizzagate, and then what I just described, all this stuff is, it's like they're people from the very groups that are being accused are coming out to put this narrative out there of, all of this crime and blackmail, and it's linked to Hillary and all this. And yet, they themselves seem very fishy. And what results from it is everybody accusing everyone else of being an agent, and nobody knows who to trust on YouTube when they talk about this. And yet when you look at the information these guys are putting out, it's like, well, they're pointing out some interesting things. Voodoo Donuts, the stuff that they pointed out there, is relevant. It all hangs together in the same narrative. But if you doubt the narrative itself, or you think that a film company working, in conjunction with an intelligence agency or in conjunction with the Clintons or something, that they might have been the ones to put this together in the first place, then of course it's all going to make sense internally if they wrote the story in the first place, right? So if they took known symbols that were associated with pedophiles according to the FBI, and they decided, let's write a story that includes all these things. I know from experience that it's very easy once you start, you decide a set of symbols and what they mean, and then you come up with a story to use it. You can do it, and you can use it. You can use people that are real. You can use real life, the real current events, real history, and twist it all into a fictional narrative that will hang together as long as every part of the story references the same cast of characters and the same set of symbols. So I don't know what's going on here, but something is going on. It does involve the entertainment industry. It involves intelligence agencies, and it involves high-level politicians like the Clintons. And I don't know what the role is of the Trump people, but I don't trust them either, So it's just like we're all caught in this shitstorm, and we don't know what the motivation is of anybody, but and we don't know where it's leading, but we know that it's shit. I'm sorry to swear, but I mean, we know that it's not reality. We're being sucked into some false reality, and I don't even know how to stop it. Like, I don't know what to do as a researcher and journalist to get the truth at this point. And there's no way to extricate myself from it anymore, I don't think, or anyone else who's worked on it. Like, you'll always be stuck with this. It's like a tar baby. It just, you get stuck to it as soon as you touch it. So I don't know. I wanted to tell you guys about Isaac Cappy Plus Ultra and how he had nothing to say about that. And I'd love to hear someone else explain, or I'd love to hear him explain why he was using that. And I don't know, but I guess that's all I have to say about it. We'll probably never know because these guys are just going to keep lying.
Yeah, and of course, like you said, once they throw out the esoteric and the symbolism, it just becomes a rabbit hole. I mean, I think you mentioned the number 17, and did you? Because yeah, that's interesting, and I know you're onto something because oddly enough, this morning I was doing some work, and my wife, she's like one of those people who has visions and she sees the shadow people. She walked in and she told me, beware of the number 17, and just walked out of the room. And I'm
really?
Like, it's one of her warnings that's Tommy spoken. So you mentioning definitely tells me there's we're going the right path, or what you said has a lot of validity. So it's a matter of following it. So what do you think, Alex? What do you think of this? Or do you have a question for Tracy?
Yeah, I think Tracy and I talked about Trump's connections to Plus Ultra. I think, didn't we? I think it was last year.
Yes.
I was actually really proud of that episode. Well, I mean, not that I'm not proud of all the other stuff, but I really like that one. But Trump, he has a mansion called Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Yeah, Mar-a-Lago, Florida. And I think people who go there, I think are celebrities, mostly celebrities and politicians. They have to pay like $75,000 a year just to be a member of that club. But if you go to that Mar-a-Lago mansion, they have all this symbolism of, like, I mean, you see this everywhere. Well, a lot of mansions, but you see the lions as guardians or gatekeepers of their little secret society mansion, celebrity mansion, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So, and then when you think about it, the lion, kind of connects to a lot of different things, including the demiurge, or if you want to call it that. And I don't know, I think, doesn't the lion connect to Mithras in some way?
Yeah, it's one of the highest grades.
Right.
Yeah.
Pater, right? Or Pater.
Yeah, and then there's two lions that always carry Cybele They either pull her train, or sometimes they're connected like cat dog in one body.
Yeah, and so I think Trump, I think he's somehow connected to that as well, because I know Miguel and I were talking about Trump. Not only is he like channeling some sort of trickster archetype, but he's also talking about his Trump's connection with Mercury, the last episode, right? And Mercury, he's known as the being that reveals the secrets, right, to the magician.
The mystic god.
The mystic god. But he's also the trickster god. He's always pulling tricks. And then Miguel, when we were even talking about how there was like these witches that are doing like a mass hex against Trump.
Yeah.
But I also think personally that all that crazy stuff that happened with the Democrats, like all these bombs are being mailed to like Hillary and George Soros and Obama. I think that might have somehow connected to that. I don't know, but yeah, I do think that I theorize that the left is somehow very much connected to witchcraft, but it doesn't make any sense though, because in leftist, communist and socialist countries, magic and the occult is basically outlawed, and including religion. So it just doesn't really make sense to me. But I just think that there is like this huge war going on between Trump and his enemies on the left, and the left, like then we're talking about Podesta and Hillary, how they're all basically a bunch of Baal or Molech worshippers. So, and then somehow Trump, he's channeling Mithras somehow. I know it's just kind of hard to believe, but but he is connected to kind of Mercury and Mercury. And then I was even talking about his penthouse in New York. Like there's all these pictures of like Zeus and Apollo. So he is very much connected to the Greek gods in some way. I'm just not sure how, but he is. I also think he is also kind of a Mason too, but I suspect so. I just don't know for sure. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think there's a magic war going on, and the two sides are so blatantly involved with occultism that it's coming out. They keep accusing each other of being part of an occult conspiracy, really. And this has happened throughout history. Every now and then it happens. Like, if you think about the Templars, what they were accused of, well, even the King of France himself was accused of Satanism also. And the guy before him was accused of it too. And so were the popes at that time. So it's like everybody was accusing everyone of Satanism back then. And maybe we're going through a similar thing now, because it's true, because they both are involved,
Right. Yeah. They're both involved in the occult, and somehow they're channeling the devil in some way. Yeah. It's really strange what we're facing.
But for example, Tracy, I know that gets bandied around, and you're right. I mean, even in the days of John Dee, I forget, there was another sorcerer on the side of the Catholic Church, and they were going at it. I mean, this happens throughout history, but what forces do you think? Because even as I was telling Alex, the term Satanism gets bandied about, and it sort of loses its meaning. What forces do you think? Are you talking about dark spirits, Satan, ancient archetypes? What do you think they're drawing upon?
Well, when it comes to Hillary, we know that she and Bill were both involved with voodoo in Haiti.
Oh, wow.
And that's even in a biography that one of them wrote early on. Like, I think Bill Clinton put out a book right after he got elected president. And so he went over his life and, how he got to where he was. He mentioned that they went to Haiti for their honeymoon, mentioned ceremonies that they went through and how fascinating he thought voodoo was. And then subsequently, there have been stories that ran in Haiti in the newspapers there about Bill Clinton attending voodoo rituals. And Clinton himself and Hillary both have, Bill and Hillary both have referred to their fascination with voodoo repeatedly since then. Not since the emails came out, not in the last 2 years, but before that, Hillary had no problem admitting that she was, fascinated with voodoo. And then there's a guy named Larry Nichols who used to work with Bill Clinton when he was a governor, and he worked with Hillary when she was working at the Rose Law Firm there in Arkansas, right? And he says that she belonged to a witch coven in LA or the Southern California area somewhere. So she would frequently fly out there to attend meetings. And he told her at one point, because Bill was running for re-election, he said, you need to keep this quiet, and also you need to go to church or do something to have a counter image to make yourself look better, so that you can laugh these stories off and say, oh, I wouldn't do a thing like that. And she just said, I can't do that, Larry. As if I know that since then she has been to church with Bill for photo ops, but at that time she wasn't even willing to step foot in a Christian church for her husband's image at all. She said she couldn't. Wow. So since then, rumors about Hillary being a witch have been around a lot, and I don't see any reason to discount them. And you can sort of just tell too, like, well, I guess I'll just leave it at that. There's some stories about her being involved in some really extreme stuff, but I don't know if I believe it or not because of what we've just described. Like, there's so much BS going around. But there's a story that there's a video of her and Huma attending a ritual that was very hardcore, and people died and were dismembered. And I'll leave it at that because there's a child in the room right now. But yeah, it was bad. So I think if even half the rumors are true, yeah, she's into some very dark stuff. So you're right that the word Satanism is vague, but there's the idea of left and right path, right? Well, she's definitely, dark. And, yeah, Bill seems to be into that same kind of doing rituals in order to get power sort of thing. And the rumors in Haiti is that he attended rituals where children died and their blood was used, and it was all for him to give him power and protection. So I classify that as, dark and evil, whatever you want to call it, but it's definitely that. If people are dying or being hurt and you're doing it for your own self-aggrandizement or enrichment, then yeah, that's definitely bad. That's all I can say about them. When you look at Trump, I think it's a little more vague, and yeah, you have to kind of read the symbolism. And I think Alex was, correct to identify an obsession with the sun and the sun gods, the old world, wanting to identify himself with Apollo. And a couple of years ago, when he first met Macron, they were both doing this Apollo symbolism, and it seemed like he wanted to utilize that image, but it didn't go where he wanted. Because remember, he wanted to have the big military parade for himself, and they turned him down. So I think that was meant to be a big, sun god enthronement ritual that never happened.
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool, actually, just to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know he's a devotee of Norman Vincent Peale and with the power of positive thought. So I think might be searching for the right archetype or archetypal forces with all this other stuff. But again, it's interesting how QAnon, or at least the circles around him, are using very esoteric symbols and magic symbols and other stuff. So
They're definitely trying to paint it as a good versus evil fight, right?
It's a Game of Thrones. It's actually more of a Game of Thrones.
But yeah, they've been upfront about it. Like, yeah, we're promoting Kek. We're using the power of Kek. We're using chaos magic, essentially, to overthrow the satanic elite. And well, I don't know that that's incorrect. Maybe that is what's going on. But what is that then? What if the forces of chaos take over? How does that compare to the power of Satan? Is it like Satan is the law and order of the world, and then there's this chaos that takes that away? What do you think, guys? That's your area.
What do you think, Alex?
Well, I mean, chaos magic. The symbol of chaos magic is a star, right? The 8-pointed star, and that connects to Ishtar or Ashtaroth, and of course, Ishtaroth is a demon in Goetic or Solomonic magic. So, I mean, I don't really think that's really opposed to the devil necessarily. I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I think maybe that the right or the alt-right, I should say, they're kind of using that same sort of magic against the slave masters, I guess. They're using their own weapon against them, basically, in a way, if you want to call it that. But I was watching some video about some girl. I forgot her name, but she was talking about her experiences with chaos magic and how you're actually talking to or you're channeling or invoking like a black star. Yeah, it's really crazy. So and somehow that black star gives you material goods, but you have to make sacrifices for it. So that's what chaos magic is really about,
Wow.
So it was really crazy. I was watching it like, wow, okay, so that's what's really about, okay. And but going back to what you were talking about, Tracy, about Hillary, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but tell me or not, yes or no, but if you want to talk about her connection with Jack Parsons.
Oh, sure. Well, okay. So a couple years ago, I wrote this article that was explaining a theory that occurred to me. And just to sum it up, the idea is that if you were to take seriously the rumors that Jack Parsons created some kind of homunculus with magic, and that this child was born, there are rumors about this. I don't know if you want to believe them or not, but anyway, if you wanted to believe that a child was created through a sex magic ritual and there's something somewhat artificial about the child, like I'm talking about one of those homunculuses that's made like a golem, made from like dead body parts or something like that, right? And I don't know. The idea is that there was this homunculus that was created through these strange rites and alchemical processes, and that baby is destined to be the whore of Babylon. He wrote about the whore of Babylon in his book of the Antichrist. And he referred to this figure with a very specific term, Hilarion. Now, the only other use of this term that I'm familiar with, it's used as like a code word or a code name by several people that have been involved with the OTO. But historically, I can only think of the cult of Cybele in Rome, and this was the name for what they called Holy Week in March, when they would do the castrations of the priests, so that it was all a recreation of what Cybele supposedly did to her son Addis. And so, anyway, the story is that Hillary was born around the time of this alleged ritual. So her, her official biography dates her to the same time. And not only that, she made a very strange reference to Palo Alto, and that she was created in a lab in Palo Alto by some scientists.
Really?
And she was trying to make a joke. Hillary's jokes always come off bad. So anyway, she's making a joke about herself and how people think she's weird, I guess. And so she was saying, yeah, actually, I'm not human. I was created in a lab in Palo Alto. Well, that's where the college that Jack Parsons attended was. And, he wasn't very far from there when he was doing his experiments. So experiments with rockets, and also experiments supposedly with magic, sex magic, creating a homunculus. So, I mean, you'd have to read the article. There's some more stuff in it to, indicate. It's all circumstantial, of course. But I tell you what, when I put this out there, the reaction I got from OTO people was so extreme. Like, they usually ignore what I have to say, they don't talk about me much, but I just got hit with so much hate from them on this. And I didn't mind, it helped my traffic, but it definitely hit a nerve. And I wasn't sure, like, do they not want their Whore of Babylon to be associated with Hillary because Hillary's not cool? Or is it the opposite? And is it like, I'm too close to home here? And since then, I've been trolled pretty hard by Hillary bots. And I've had people that I know are high up in her campaign writing to me, acting like they're fans, wanting to know, what I'm up to, what I'm planning next, and then sending me information about QAnon and things like that. And when you look up these people's backgrounds, they work for Hillary, and I'm just like, why are you sending me this? So I'm very suspicious of her and her entourage. I do think that they're connected to the OTO. Well, the Hillary personnel that I'm talking about, I know for certain they're connected to the OTO. Wow. It's documented. So, I mean, look, the OTO is everywhere, I mean, they're people, right? So there's some of them work for Google, and some of them work for MIT, and some of them work for the government. That's not that weird, but you put all these things together and it forms a pattern. So I do think that Hillary's people, some of them are definitely involved with the occult, and they're also running operations on the internet for her to, if nothing else, infiltrate and have some kind of influence on what other people are saying about her. And they've targeted me particularly because I think I'm not wrong about some of the things I see here, some of the symbolism, that maybe she isn't this homunculus, but that she might be symbolically connected with this image of the Whore of Babylon. Maybe she is. And then, just some of the things about her, like they say that she smells really bad. There's 2 or 3 people who have said she has a smell like a dead body. And it's a very particular thing. You don't hear this about everybody. So I connected it with the idea that if she's a homunculus that's made artificially, maybe she is rotting, and look at the lady. She looks very bad, she's got a lot of weird health problems. And then she seems very intelligent at times when she's got the right drugs or whatever. But when she's not, she's falling apart, and she has to be carried and moved around like she's a doll, So I don't know. There's something very weird about Hillary. And I threw this out there, I think, to be funny, really. I thought people would take it as a joke, even though I wasn't joking when I wrote it. But I didn't think that the public would. I thought they would mostly laugh at it, which is what most people did. But then certain people who know about these things wrote to me and said, yeah, you're right. And I was like, wow, really? I was just guessing. So I don't know. I think that I might be on something. She might be someone who is destined to take power at some point. And maybe that's why she feels the way she does. You know, she acts like she deserves this, and it's written in stone that she'll be president. That's why she freaked out so hard when she didn't get it. And maybe she knows something we don't about what her own destiny is.
Yeah, possibly. I know officially she was actually born here in Chicago. That's at least the official story. I think she grew up in Highland Park, somewhere around here. But well, let's move away to other types of homunculus, because we definitely want to get through this. I hope you can hang a little bit longer, Tracy. This is really fascinating. Of course, it's just awesome talking to you. But tell us, and even in the chat room, people are saying some great stuff, great compliments. Not a lot of arguments tonight. So it's almost like people actually agree with you. Usually people are fighting, but there's certainly some people in the chat room who want to know about your excellent work on Mickey Mouse. And I've been to your plus section, and I advise everybody join Tracy's, because there's a lot of good stuff. You think this is good, there's even more in her member section. So tell us about your Mickey Mouse article.
Okay, so it really turned out to be a book. I'll probably publish it as a book here, but it's available as a long article. If you were to print it out, it would be 400 pages. So anyway, it started out that I noticed that there's a term supposedly used interchangeably with Baphomet. It's mentioned in the Oxford English Dictionary when it talks about how they thought that Baphomet was really just another way of saying Muhammad, and that Muhammad was a generic term used back then in Templar times for an idol worshipped by a cult. And it had to do with the fact that Europeans didn't know anything about Islam, and that's how they perceived them, was just being pagans. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that's the idea. That's why Oxford English Dictionary said that. And one of the terms they referred to as, another word that was cited by Templars in their confessions was mouse. So they referred to the Baphomet head as the mouse head, or a mouse head. Wow. And so I was just going to look into that a little bit and see if it meant anything. And the Mickey Mouse face occurred to me just because it's a weird thing. I don't know. It just looks weird. His face looks weird. And if you look at the images of Baphomet that, for instance, I found in Mysterium Baphometus Revelatum, written by Hammer Bergstall, he found a bunch of artifacts that he thought were Templar artifacts. Some of them actually were idols or had images of the idols on them. And so you can see all these possibly real Templar depictions of Baphomet, of the head, and it does kind of look like this freaky cat head in some ways. It looks like it might be a mask. And then it has these ears in some instances that I just thought, well, maybe this is connected to the Mickey Mouse head, but it was just a thought, So I started looking into it. One of the first things I note in one of my German dictionaries, it says that Maus means knife point, and also bullet, and all these things about piercing, So anyway, I found tons of interesting things about the etymology connected with both Maus and also the word Mickey. And so first I figured out that this has something to do with actually it's a symbol of slipping someone a Mickey, okay? It's a symbol of poisoning someone or giving someone a drug, like a date rape drug, to make them pass out and then do what you want with them. And so it's used by criminals to take advantage of people, this technique, but also some secret societies use it in their induction ceremonies. And so in one of my videos, I and then also in the article, I talk all about this and some of the instances in which this is known to occur. And then, I mean, it's a really long essay, but the next thing all that led me to had to do with the song Mack the Knife, because it's actually comes from this opera, or it's a stage play called the Threepenny Opera from like Weimar, Germany, you know, late 1920s.
Oh, wow.
And it came out the same year that Walt Disney supposedly invented Mickey Mouse. And in German, the character's name is Mackie Messer, because Messer is knife, and in German. And the play is all about this guy. He's a murderer and a rapist and a hardened criminal. And he ends up at the end becoming a banker and joining the Order of the Garter, because it all takes place. The story takes place in London, even though it's a German opera. But so it's a story about this really bad guy, but he's celebrated in a way and made into a hero. And so this play comes out in 1928. Mickey Mouse is invented the same year, and then right around the time that the movie version of Threepenny Opera is coming out, that's when Mickey like makes his theatrical appearance, and it's right around the time that the stock market crashed also. But there's just a lot of very direct connections between Mack the Knife and Mickey Mouse. Oh, one of the movies he appeared in around at that time was Opry House. Okay, it's a Mickey Mouse short called Opry House, where he's running, his own live variety show theater. And this is the first time that Mickey Mouse wore gloves. So he wears these white gloves now, but he didn't before. And the gloves have 3 lines on the back. It's exactly the same gloves that Mackie Messer wears, and they're referred to in the song Mack the Knife. Excuse me. That he's killing people with a knife, and then the gloves are there so that the blood doesn't get on his hands, so his hands are always clean. And the song also talks about how his knife is hidden and it's not in an obvious place, just like the shark's teeth. And so what it's really all about is someone who presents themselves to be nice and funny and cute, like Mackie Messer is presented in this opera and in this movie. He's celebrated, but he's a bad guy, and he'll get you. And Frank Sinatra even added a little bit more when he did his version of the song. So he added that, "I'll tell you about Mack the Knife. It's an offer you can't refuse." This is a line from The Godfather, and there's a character in The Godfather that this line is used about the first time in the first movie. And then, it's used to refer to the same kind of thing from that point onward several times throughout the series. And what it is, it's a story based on something that really happened with Frank Sinatra, where he wanted to get out of his contract with the Tommy Dorsey band. And so he had his godfather, who was part of a mafia cartel, and so was Frank. He had this guy threaten to kill Tommy Dorsey and said, "If you don't take $1,000 right now and let him out of his contract, we'll kill you." And so that's referred to as the offer you can't refuse. And Frank Sinatra came out and sang about it and said that Mack the Knife is a symbol for that. It's a way of referring to that. So Frank and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. all did this song, many, many times throughout their lives. They performed it. They all were associated with the song. Sammy Davis was in the movie in the 60s, the American movie version of it. He's the organist who plays the song, Mack the Knife. Anyway, there's a half-hour segment of my video series about Mickey Mouse and all this symbolism. So if you find the video that's called Mickey Mouse and Mack the Knife, that section explains all this stuff, and I think really lays out how it seems very clear that Walt Disney was inspired by Mack the Knife when he created Mickey, but he couldn't come out and say that because he's a dark figure, you know? But the evidence is all there. And what's even more interesting, I think, is that other people have picked up on this throughout the years, but they don't come out and say it either. So in Marilyn Manson's Golden Age of Grotesque album and the tour that he did for that album, the symbolism is all about this, but no one has ever even noticed until now. That's what the whole joke is about this. It's about that Mickey Mouse was inspired by blackface makeup that people were, wearing in stage plays and stuff and movies back then. And then the connections with Mack the Knife. It's all in this Marilyn Manson album. And there's references to stuff with Frank Sinatra. There's references to the Kennedy assassination, which I think Frank Sinatra knows a lot about, or knew a lot about when he was alive. Wow. My research about Mickey led to be researching Frank Sinatra also, and the Manson murders and Roman Polanski, and all these things ended up being connected. And so I wrote about all of it because it's all connected to this methodology of how the crime cartels are controlling the entertainment industry. They're using these covert terms to refer to it. And the same symbolism and terminology has parallels with occult symbolism. It ties into the subject of the Process Church, for instance, and their involvement with crime and with murders. The idea that there are satanic cults that operate within criminal cartels and help them do operations and do hits on people. So the symbolism of Mickey Mouse being, for one thing, a murderer who pretends to be a nice guy is there. And then the other thing I mentioned about slipping someone a Mickey, that's all buried in his name as well. And you could see references to that throughout the work of all the people I just mentioned, Roman Polanski and Frank Sinatra. And it opened up the whole Manson murder subject for me, for instance. I really think that there's a lot more that nobody's even thought of yet. So I've mentioned some of it in my essay, and I'm going to have to expand upon it more because there's a lot that I couldn't even fit in there that I figured out. I've got all these notes and stuff. So probably over the course of the next year, I'll be presenting all this to the public. And I really think it kind of opens up a lot of cold cases. And a lot of them, I think, are tied directly to Frank Sinatra. But if you're wondering what Frank Sinatra really has to do with Disney, they were friends. They had some of the same properties. Walt Disney would rent out his properties to Frank Sinatra sometimes. And also they allowed Jack Kennedy to have his affairs with Marilyn Monroe and other people there. So there were these sex parties going on, and Disney would have known about it and possibly filmed it, if it happened on his property. So all this stuff is connected. It's explained in the article, explained in the videos. There's more coming, more videos. You guys will see for yourself. I mean, it sounds like I'm connecting a lot of really disconnected things, but once you see what I put together, you'll see why I put them together. And I'm pretty impressed with what I have here, actually. So I can't wait to explain it more to people when I have more time.
Wow, no, I think it's going to be amazing when you can put this all out into one package, because right now I'm seeing so much connection, and it's great. Again, for some reason, I just did an interview with Tobias Churton, again, the synchronicities, and I've been doing some research on the Process Church and the Charles Manson. So when I hit something and we talk about it like this, and you start hitting some of the ideas that I've been working, I know you're going down the right road. So this is awesome. And I invited a friend, a cult fan. He's trying to get his media going. Can you hear me, man?
I can, brother. How are you?
Good. Well, glad you're here with Alex Rivera and Tracy Twyman. I know you probably have a question for Tracy. I know you're dying to ask her.
Well, first, I just want to say hi, Tracy. It's nice to finally talk with you, and I want to thank you for all the great work you've done for the community over the stretch of the years here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Miguel. Oh no, I mean it. Legit. Like, we've talked back and forth, and we don't need to go into all the details, but if you don't mind, I'm just going to listen for a bit, and if I have a question, I'll pop in. And hello, Alex, and hi, Miguel, and hi, everyone in the chat room.
Hi.
Thought I'd bring an audience member, and he's been, a great guy. I've enjoyed you in a culture with Ryan a few times, so it's good to have you on. So, but Alex, what do you think about the Mickey thing? I know you can tie it to higher symbolism.
Well, the Mickey Mouse character, he's also kind of a trickster deity, don't you think? Like he started out in that cartoon. It was like I think he was on a boat or something.
Steve.
Yeah, something like that. But he's a little more of a psychopath in his early incarnations, right? I mean, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think, Tracy?
Yeah, I guess you could say that about a lot of those cartoon characters too from the old days, like Bugs Bunny. I mean, what a jerk! If you think about the stuff he did to Elmer Fudd, he was a real sicko, and he used to say so, right? Ain't I a stinker? He knew he was a bad guy. But the worst, I thought, was Tom and Jerry. Like, that used to just bring me to tears to see what Jerry did to Tom. So
I know.
Yeah, psychopath mice.
The coyote and the roadrunner. Why didn't that bird get it for once?
Exactly.
Well, you guys do realize that Mickey's best friend was an analog for Hades, which is Pluto.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think another thing I brought up in the video, Mack the Knife, the first 10 minutes of the video is all about the connection between Mickey and St. Nicholas, because in a lot of countries they replace the N with M, and his name basically sounds like Mickey, Miklaus, Miklov, things like that. Most Nikolai.
That's a great point. And you guys do realize that JFK was allegedly assassinated by a mouser.
Oh, really?
You mean a Mauser?
To your point, yes. No pun intended to your point, but about penetration, right? It's another sink in there.
Yes. Oh, and so Mickey Mouse has this nemesis called Black Pete, and also called Bootleg Pete. Okay, well, Black Pete is Knecht Ruprecht or Krampus. This is the guy that
celebrate the Black Pete Festival.
So he's the bad guy. He's the bad Santa. And it comes from the story of St. Nicholas, where he supposedly somehow resurrected 3 boys that this bad butcher had killed, and he put their bodies in 3 barrels of brine, and he was going to sell their meat as though it was pork. And Nicholas came and he figured out what was going on, and he resurrected the boys. And then the butcher followed Nicholas around from that time onward, and he flagellates himself for, because he's sorry for what he did. But then he also plays the role like Krampus or Black Pete, where he has to go around punishing the bad kids. So the good kids get toys and candy, the bad kids get a lump of coal. But in the older stories, it's really a lot worse. They get kidnapped, they get taken to his lair, and you can imagine what happens after that. So, it's all this, what we would now call Pizzagate type stuff is in the story of St. Nicholas. And then you deconstruct his name and it matches up with Mickey. And then you look at his companion, it's Black Pete. And then you look at Mickey and he has this dog named Pluto. So it's the same thing where he has this companion that's a demon, you know?
Yeah. Tracy, you know that they have the black. Now, this I learned from No Agenda, Alex, Miguel, and Tracy. They actually are going through every year this kind of controversy because their Santa is called Black Pete. They have Black Pete's over there. And they're actually talking about how it's racist to have them dress up with the coal. And, you know, they can get into how it's a, you know, world agenda kind of thing. But I think it's interesting that they still actually have a Black Pete. But in this case, he filled in for the Mickey Mouse or Santa Claus figure. And let us not forget Michael Myers.
It was my understanding that Black Pete and Santa go around together. And like in the old days, Black Pete might actually whip some butts. You know, he might go around exacting revenge on the known troublemakers in the village. There's all these posters of Krampus. Krampus and Black Pete are like interchangeable, and sometimes I see figures that have the features of both. So they're definitely the same figure. And there's all these old postcards that show Krampus or Black Pete coming and whipping a child in front of its mother while its mother stands there approvingly, like, yeah, go for it. Because I guess that's the bad kid, you know, and the good kids are getting candy from St. Nicholas. So anyway, yeah, they have these festivals and they're still doing them in Europe. And yeah, the Black Pete character is usually a white guy with blackface makeup. So there again, you have the same thing as what Mickey's appearance is basically based on. And you guys really have to check out the Marilyn Manson album after the end of this. And, you know, I'm not recommending the music, but it's
Golden Age of the Grotesque.
Golden Age of Grotesque.
Okay.
Yeah, Dole Digga, Buzz Bud, Ziggity Zag, and Saint, and things like, yeah. I listened to that in high school pretty frequently.
And it came out, well, okay, the Golden Age it's referring to. I think that's a reference directly to the Louis Buñuel movie that came out in 1929, the same time period as what I'm talking about here. So, and that's a movie that's based on 120 Days of Sodom by Marquis de Sade. And it had, you know, what's his name? The artist was involved at least in the movie. What's his name?
Not Fellini.
No, the melting clocks guy.
Dolly.
Dolly. Okay, so Dolly was involved in the movie early on, and then he kind of, I think, broke up with his friend Louis Buñuel halfway towards, you know, the end of making the movie. But anyway, I think that Marilyn Manson's album is referring to that, and there's so much in that album, in the lyrics and in the cover art, the pictures that he had taken at that time. There was a whole photo shoot that he had done by, I don't know, a famous photographer, and they're all very pregnant with meaning. So you can tell this guy knows something about Mickey Mouse and Mack the Knife and all these dark things that were coming out around this time period of late 1920s, early 30s. And he's not saying what it is he knows. He's hinting at it, and he's never said since. Oh, but there is an indication, another clue. This clue comes from Lil Uzi Vert, okay? Because they're friends now. Marilyn Manson and Lil Uzi Vert hang out now. And Uzi says, you know, Manson is his favorite. It's the only guy he follows on Twitter. So a year ago, Uzi Vert spent $200,000 to buy this diamond-encrusted necklace that has Marilyn Manson on it, you know, a little figure of him wearing the Mickey Mouse costume, this evil Mickey Mouse costume that he had on his Golden Age of Grotesque album. So Lil Uzi Vert's making a reference to that, and on the Mickey Mouse hat that the Marilyn Manson figure is wearing on the necklace is the number 2.
Oh my God.
Do you guys know what that is? If you don't, I'll tell you.
Tell us.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Manson 2. There's a character called Manson 2 that's referred to in the book The Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry. That's about the Process Church and how he thinks that the Manson murders were process hits and the Berkowitz murders were process hits. Wow. And he had an informant who told him that some of the Berkowitz murders were done by this figure, this person, a hitman, who's referred to in the cult as Manson 2. That's his nickname. And he did know Charles Manson at one point. And he's involved supposedly in the murder of Roy Radin, the Hollywood producer, who's connected to organized crime and stuff. So anyway, the reference is obvious on the Lil Uzi Vert necklace that this is Manson 2. Now, I don't think he's calling Marilyn Manson Manson 2. He's just sharing a joke that they both know about. And Marilyn Manson, you know, was buddies with Anton LaVey, part of the Church of Satan. So he would have had a line on inside information about this kind of stuff because Anton LaVey, he knew all about what I was referring to earlier about what I think Frank Sinatra was involved in. Nancy Sinatra was supposedly hung out with the Manson family. And there's a guy who says that he has video that was taken at the Manson Spawn Ranch. That's tons of famous people, you know, doing it with the Manson girls. And they kept logs of all the stuff that happened. And so some of the people on the films include supposedly John and George from the Beatles together in a gay encounter. Okay. That's the kind of stuff that they had. I
all you need is Tracy.
So the Manson family was not anything like what it's portrayed. They were involved in compromising people. They were involved with, I can't get into it all, but I mean, they knew what the agenda was that the Beatles were about to put out. That's why he thought there were messages to him on the White Album, because he knew these guys. So it's logical, actually, that there might have been messages to him on the album. And John Lennon went and bought the Rosemary's Baby house a few years later when someone mentioned that to him, that, oh, this is the same house that they put the Rosemary's Baby movie in. He supposedly wrote the words Helter Skelter on the wall and then covered it up with a box. Yeah. But like he knew something, you know, and I think that it had to do with the process, because the process had actively targeted them as people they wanted to recruit. And they were involved with the Manson family, so that would have been an avenue for them to have access. Anyway, it's a huge subject, but yeah, so back to the Manson 2 thing is just, there's no doubt in my mind, after I put that together, I figured out, okay, Marilyn Manson totally knows tons of stuff about this organized crime group that includes the Process Church, that had something to do, I think, with the Manson murders, JFK's murder, Bobby Kennedy's murder for sure, and several other high-level incidents in that time period. So,
did you notice, Tracy, that the Golden Age of Grotesque was released within a week of Beltane?
No, I didn't notice that. Okay, cool.
What about you, Alex? You're being rather quiet.
Yeah, well, I remember.
Did they get to you?
No. I was reading Tracy's article, and she was connecting the Yellow Submarine from the Beatles to the Demiurge, right? Tracy, I think you're talking about Hillary Boob or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like really crazy. Like it's all about the recreation of another universe. It's it's totally nuts. And I think you even talked about another article called "Fake News," and you were connecting John Dee's magic with like creating another universe. Like he's also some sort of demiurge, and we're kind of trapped in his own occult matrix, you want to call it that. Then you have all these other billionaires trying to escape this matrix, this magical matrix. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know if I really believe it all, but I kind of like the way your mind works, where it's going. So I mean, it's fascinating how you put all these connections together. But I just thought I mentioned that.
Well, I when I was writing Genuflect, that's when I kind of looked into the alchemy stuff, and then stuff that Aleister Crowley had written about sex magic and homunculuses, moon children, and things like that. And that's when I kind of figured out that they're talking about creating another universe in the body of a person that would be born after, after a sex magic rite of that sort. That you're creating a god that is actually the new Aeon. It in its own body, it has the new universe. I think that's what Aleister Crowley was hinting at, and I figure he didn't make it up. He probably got it from someone else. So it's a tradition. They probably know what they're talking about. They have some reason to believe that they can do this. And then when I looked at the Yellow Submarine movie, it's all about that, because it is about everything disappears. The whole of existence disappears, through, I think, the Sea of Holes, or no, it goes into the Sea of Nothing. And then they have to paint the universe all over again and sing it into existence. And Hilary Boob, who's this sort of, wordy, cerebral writer who he's verbose and he talks too much and he's kind of a know-it-all. So the Beatles are all making fun of him brutally, or Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is the alter egos of the Beatles in this movie. They're just mercilessly, attacking this character who's like a stowaway on their boat. So they keep hitting him with all these insults that seem to me like the kinds of things that Gnostics would say about the demiurge, where, that he thinks he's all that. He thinks he's everything. He thinks he knows everything, but he's really the nowhere man, and he's a fool. He's the fool on the hill and all that. And so the fact that he's called Hilary Jeremy Boob is weird, considering what I just told you about my theory about Hillary. Yeah. And then, yes, he's the demiurge in this movie. It's his job to recreate the universe with the Beatles, but they treat him like he's dirt, and it's a Gnostic point of view. I know you guys might use that label yourselves, so I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but this is something that's okay. Anyway, right. and the bad guys, the blue meanies in that movie, are wearing Mickey Mouse hats, and Paul McCartney used to wear Mickey Mouse hats all the time. And the people that designed the cover for Sgt. Pepper, one of those artists, well, both of them were obsessed with Mickey Mouse, and one of them, she's still on it. That Mickey Mouse trip, she's still doing Mickey Mouse art. I don't know. It means something. it connects somehow.
Wow, that is amazing connections, and I don't even know where to go. My mind is blown. And again, I don't want to keep bringing. Well, I had a synchronicity, but I was honestly listening to the White Album this morning. I don't know why it just came to me. So. It's synchronicities abound. Well, a cult fan or Alex, you have a question for Tracy or a comment? Because this is just really cool.
Alex, you go.
Go ahead.
Alex, you go.
I guess you better go, a cult fan.
Okay, well, in that case, Yeah, I think that while you were talking about that, Tracy, and about speaking or singing the world into existence, obviously that connects with Crowley's abrahadabra, which is as I speak, I create.
Ah, uh-huh. Good point.
And well, a point like a mouse, sir, but yeah, no, I think that, yeah, no, I think that the way that your mind works is just you've said so much. It's like in The Simpsons when Mr. Burns has all the germs and none of them can get through. My mind's trying to process like everything I've just been given, and it's just like
Okay, so there's an image you might be familiar with. It's a drawing of a tulpa made by a theosophist. I'm trying to remember the dude's name. I'll look it up, but it looks exactly like the flowers that come out of Hillary's mouth when they're singing. I think they're singing "All You Need Is Love" at the end. And these flowers come out of his mouth. When you take that picture, if you were to take a little snapshot on your computer screen and compare it to this, famous in the occult world, famous theosophical painting of a tulpa or a thought form that has come to life, they look almost identical. So I'll try to find it for you here while we're talking. But
I'm looking it up
I
too.
figured that would be useful to you.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's a documentary that recently came out on the Process Church, and it's supposed to be in depth, but it paints them as not what we are talking about right now, or at the very least, a sort of a loose satellite organization.
Tracy, you've got to be kidding me. If you're talking about we just stepped into like the sink of sinks. So you're talking about the postcard I have here?
Hold on. Yeah. It's called.
Hey, Miguel, you did good today.
Music of Gunod, according to Eddie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter.
Yeah, and they premiered. So my birthday, as Miguel knows, because we just talked about this in private chat. They premiered a Gunod piece on my birthday this year in Boston.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, this is pretty cosmic. I wanted to mention that you mentioned Hilarion earlier, speaking of theosophy. And as Dark Journalist has pointed out, and there's all these MIT connections and whatnot, and you can find this in his X series. Master Hilarion is one of the Theosophy Society's ascended masters.
Oh, wow.
And of course, Leadbeater, that goes back to the pedo stuff and false messiahs and all that good stuff. So
Miguel, the guy who wrote the article about the Gudon, if I'm saying his name right, the man who wrote the article about this premiering in Boston on September 22nd, his last name was Leadbetter.
Oh, here we go. More synchronicities. Wow.
I'm trying to find. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm just saying, is this a Saint Ledbetter? He's the theosophist. He's like kind of I don't know, like a priest / magician. He wrote something about the occult nature of the Eucharist. Is that the same guy that we're talking about?
Probably.
I'm talking about the guy who groomed Krishnamurti, I think.
Maybe. I don't know.
Is there a way I can
Groomed
send you guys a picture? What's the best way for me to send a picture to somebody to get it on the screen?
Oh, you can hold it up in front of your camera is what I did. That's
Well, is there another way? Like can I send it through Twitter to you, Miguel?
Yeah, and I'll do a screen share.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
This seems key here, so just give me a second. Go ahead and talk while I'm doing this.
All right. I'm waiting for Tracy's missive.
well, while I can just be weird, I'm actually wearing a pair of 3-lined gloves right now.
No, you're kidding. You put those on. Somebody was asking
I just did.
why do cartoon characters have 4 fingers? Is there anything to it? All of them.
Okay,
Good
I sent
question.
the thing.
Let's
I
see.
didn't-
All right.
I don't know why they always have 4 fingers. Well, actually, I did read something about this, about Mickey, like that it was just too hard to. Oh, no, it was really ridiculous. He said it was cheaper to pay animators to draw 4 fingers instead of 5.
No.
You believe that?
No.
Huh.
No, I think there's tons of things to be decoded about the old cartoons and why they're presented the way they are. All this stuff with anthropomorphized animals that's so normal to us now. I mean, it's not like it was unheard of before, but I mean, it's really part of our culture now in a heavy way, especially for kids. I'll bet there's, a deep history there.
All right.
There you go.
Can you guys see it?
I think
Yeah.
that's a tulpa.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So yeah, there's tons of stuff in Yellow Submarine, which the Beatles hated. They didn't want to be in the movie, and they only make one appearance at the end. And they all look miserable in the 1 or 2 minutes at the end of the movie. They look embarrassed to be there. But there's tons of allusions in the movie to sex magic that would have involved. I mean, the illusion in the movie is that they're all doing it together. They're all part of some ritual involving each other sexually.
All together now. All together now.
Yes. Oh, there was. I wonder if I have it, because there's something the Process Church dude said to Grimston.
It wasn't. It wasn't
ahead.
come together, was it?
Yes.
Right now, over.
It was very similar. It was like you could tell that. I think John Lennon wrote that, right? He read De Grimston and then wrote that song. It's obvious. The similarity is very close. Come together over me. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's talking about God and the devil coming together. That's what De Grimston was talking about.
And you realize that this ties all into Twin Peaks, of course, which is probably the biggest masterpiece of the last and the century. They have tulpas in that, of course. I'm not going to give away too much because I really think people should enjoy that as much as they can. But there's the White Lodge, the Black Lodge. Of course, that's the right hand and the left hand path. There are tulpas that are used and created for certain purposes. And let us not forget that the most famous episode of The Return was episode 8, which signifies the Babylon working and nuclear explosions tearing a hole in the fabric of the dimensions, which allows Bob in. So that's why 1947 was so significant, because that's when I believe the dimensions were shredded asunder. Tracy, I think you've touched on this in your work. This is when a lot of stuff went real bad. And of course, then we have JPL and Not a Straight Answer, or whatever it is.
Grant Morrison, Invisibles, that's how everything started, was also the bomb and his mythology.
Which his mythology is completely correct. Without going into too much singularity detail, when I was part of a men's group and we did a prayer to Kefra. When I got back, my copy of the Invisibles, the omnibus, had arrived, and of course, as you know how Invisible starts, it's with Kefra. So this is all we're all tied together right here. There's no accidents.
Wow.
Yeah, bro. Tracy, sis, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. All together now.
Yeah. We all live. No, never mind. There's not
Sing
some,
it, bro.
yeah, a toll.
Yeah, right? Oh, God. You just made me think that might be something that's going on. But yeah, Twin Peaks definitely shows because, and I want to put this out there. There's a really great documentary I mentioned in the chat room earlier for this. Just look up Secret History of Twin Peaks and Stanley Kubrick. And that's where I'll lead you for that. But it ties together with what you were just saying, Miguel. I don't want to get into it. It's pretty disturbing stuff.
Mm.
And Tracy, do you let your kid watch Disney movies?
Luckily, he doesn't care too much about them. I mean, yeah, he could take it or leave it. He's got his own obsessions now, and he's really not influenced by the media very much at all. It's kind of great, and also it's frightening. I mean, it's frightening to me because he's just so beyond my control now, you know? It's too late for me to teach him anything. He's figuring everything out on his own, and I can't even do anything about it. But it's okay. It's turning out well so far.
Well, as long as he's learning from you the symbols, what to watch out, the signs, all that, and the mythic worlds, the legends, all that, then he'll be pretty well armed. I mean, that's half of the battle, right? Knowing the symbols and the archetypes that are behind them and everything else.
Miguel, you know what? Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Well, I'll just say, Tracy, and then you go. Tracy, as you know, as we've said in private messaging, I won't give the date, but Tracy and my mom have the same birthday. Speaking of moms and sons who are aware of occult things.
Wow.
Cool.
Well,
It's just weird.
is she anything like me?
You know, no.
Okay.
No, I don't think anyone's quite like you, Tracy, and we're lucky to have you, frankly.
Amen to that. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much gone a good hour and a half, 2 hours, so we probably should wrap it up. And this has been a great conversation. Very cool remarks. Sorry we can get to all the questions in the chat room. Perhaps another time. And again, for others, this has been Heretics Anonymous, and this will eventually, hopefully sooner than later, be out in audio on iTunes, so we can reach. Of course, it'll be on YouTube as soon as probably tomorrow, for those of you who want to re-listen or anything else, but it'll be out on iTunes and all the other podcasters and a audio version. And we hope to do some more of these because, again, look at the energy and the good egregores we're creating simply on our second episode, and appreciate those being here. So, Alex, thanks for being here and making this happen with me. You rock.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad it happened. So, I mean, glad it worked in its own way. So, a lot of good magic.
There you go. And Occult Fan, thanks for being our surprise guest. You did well, and I've always enjoyed your work and what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you for having me, Miguel. And I just want to say thank you, Alex and Tracy, as well. You guys rock. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hey, Nathan, I know you asked for a Xerox of an article from an old magazine I put out, and I still have your request in my email box, so I haven't forgotten about you, and I will send it to you.
I super appreciate that, the Danny Carey interview, because I'm writing the book about the Holy Gift. Yes, thank you so much, Tracy.
Sure. Sorry it took so long.
No worries, thank you.
All right, well, and Tracy, thank you so much for coming on Heretics Anonymous, Aeon Byte, the Megas Aeon. It's always awesome talking to you, and it's always just wonderful seeing the research you're doing and how you're moving things forward. Did we lose Tracy?
No, that was Nathan you lost.
I'm still here, I think.
Oh, you went to no video.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. My phone got hot, I think. But thank you all again. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
All right. And well, again, Tracy, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thanks. I'm going to dump out because I don't think my kid can be quiet any longer. So
no, I agree. I got to get to my kids. They're probably dying outside the room. They want attention too.
Okay.
Well, good night, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. So long.